Welcome to the Feast, where the focus is supporting students, families, and teachers with the teaching and learning process, specifically strategies for critical thinking. My name is Nasira Waters, and I've worked in the education system for over 2 decades as an English teacher, literacy coach, and mentor. Today we're going to focus on note-taking and questioning by viewing a TED Talk titled The Danger of a Single Story. And throughout that process, students will engage in a specific assignment that requires them to analyze content by questioning and determining its possible impacts. Here is the informational Common Core standard for 8th grade, which is similar to the 7th grade standard and the grades above 9 through 12. And students will start out by note taking, and in order to do that, there are processes that they can utilize, which are annotation processes, which supports the process of actively engaging in the text, and I'll go over that more after we view the excerpt of the video. Then students will question the text and identify the central idea and theme, and once they identify the strongest evidence that supports the central idea and theme, they will respond, and I'll get into that. This is where they will provide their 2 why and 2 how questions and provide what stood out to them, why it stood out, and the implications. So, like I said, students will view the video, which here's the link for them to access the video itself. But for now, we are going to view an excerpt of the video where Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie conveys her experiences and some historical context of people creating single stories about people and places and the danger of doing so. So let's take a listen.
So the year I turned 8, we got a new houseboy. His name was Fide. The only thing my mother told us about him was that his family was very poor. My mother sent yams and rice and our old clothes to his family. And when I didn't finish my dinner, my mother would say, "Finish your food. Don't you know people like Fide's family have nothing?" So I felt enormous pity for Fide's family. Then one Saturday, we went to his village to visit. And his mother showed us a beautifully patterned basket made of dyed raffia that his brother had made. I was startled. It had not occurred to me that anybody in his family could actually make something. All I had heard about them was how poor they were, so that it had become impossible for me to see them as anything else but poor. Their poverty was my single story of them.
So, as she conveyed, Adichie conveyed, that she created a single story about Fide's family. And it's crucial that we understand that as humans, every one of us creates single stories about people, places, and things. And the important part about that is to be conscious of it, to become aware of it, so that whenever it happens, it's not about passing judgment on ourselves or condemning ourselves, but it's about recognizing it and going through the process of correcting it. So, through this process of engaging in this assignment, students will go through that process of thinking about the single stories that Adichie presents, as well as some possible single stories that they have created, and they'll go further into that as we engage in other assignments, creating poems and engaging in Socratic discussion. So this is going to be a mini series. So let's get back to the annotation process. So students will engage in note taking, and they can annotate the text. The text is below the assignment, the complete transcript of the video. And so students can annotate the text by summarizing various sections that they want to, let's say, clarify certain concepts. And so they will summarize those sections. They can clarify by defining keywords, analyzing keywords, and connecting to ideas. They can connect personally. They can make connections to historical and current events. They can respond to the content by agreeing, disagreeing, or giving their perspective, or reacting to the video. I like to say responding because reacting for me is more of lacks a thoughtful process. And students can question, and what I require is using how and why questions because they tend to promote more critical thinking. And during other previous lessons, I've taught students how to generate how and why questions, so teachers can go through that process. And then students question further through generating 2 additional why and how questions. And one of the other keys to this is generating questions that don't have answers directly stated in the content, or the answers are not obvious. And so students will view the video once as a class. They don't have to take notes. Some students choose to take notes, but they're not required to. And during the second viewing, students can then take notes. Some students may choose to go into the hallway, and that depends on your school environment, while other students choose to stay in and have the second viewing and engage in that with the entire class. And there's a video that I made previously that addresses the difference between the central idea and the theme, because they are not the same. So I'll include the link for that video to support this process. So again, students view the entire video, at least twice. They identify the central idea, which will support the process of them identifying the theme of the content. After doing that, students then provide the evidence that most strongly supports the central idea. And so they complete each of these rows in the left-hand column with pieces of evidence that most strongly support the central idea or theme. And for each piece of evidence, students are required in the right-hand column to provide who is impacted by the evidence in the left-hand column, and what are the possible impacts. And so I have here, and they are to provide an example. I didn't provide the example because I find in certain situations, once I provide the example, that is an example that many students would have utilized. So in this case, I decided not to provide the example. So for students that teachers may need to, or parents may need to modify this part of the assignment, they can say, okay, provide 5 pieces of evidence that most strongly support the central idea or theme. For the next section, students generate 2 why and 2 how questions. If you modify this, it could be 1 why, 1 how question. And again, the questions must be thought-provoking, and the answers to the questions cannot be directly stated in the content or obvious. And students will have an opportunity to get feedback from their group members regarding the questions, so that students can give them feedback to say, oh, this is the answer. This answer is directly stated in the content, and they can show them, and then the student will go back and revise it so that the question does not. so that the question is not directly stated in the content. Then students will identify a portion of the text, the content that stood out to them. They'll explain why and provide a possible implication. The implication could be globally. It's something that where the student provides a deeper understanding of how what stood out to them can impact people, places, and things. And so this is the entire assignment. And again, students should have an opportunity to get feedback from their peers in terms of some of their evidence, in terms of the impact, as well as the questions and the implications. So I don't rush through assignments, and that may mean that maybe a particular piece of content we don't delve into as deeply, or I totally just omit that particular content or story or article, because I'm more focused on ensuring that students can apply the skills. So although I will have specific content that we are going over throughout the year to address specific skills, sometimes I have to adjust based on the needs of the students, because I don't really believe in rushing assignments. The focus is for students to have ample opportunities to reflect and share and collaborate and get feedback. So I hope this was useful to you. If it was in any way or any portion, please like. If you know someone, family, teacher that could benefit from this, please share. Again, share, like, subscribe. And this is going to be a mini series where I provide an assignment where students are writing, creating a found poem, and then we have the last portion, which would be a Socratic discussion. I look forward to sharing with you next Wednesday, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.